maybe a second over. We're not telling on anybody. But, for the first hour plus, almost all of it was Deshaun Watson in the starting offense, who was there. Almost all of them were there at one end, and Shedeur Sanders at the two at the other end. There weren't many competitive reps, weren't any really competitive situations until the back half of practice. But over the course of practice, Deshaun got most of the reps with the one. Deshaun made the single most impressive throw of the day. In the second half of practice, when they limited it down, they went from two groups to...
His progressions, getting the ball out, his understanding of concepts. I think he's really, really come a long way.
The defense was able to have a couple heads up.
One throw. That's all it took. And the guy who's been watching Browns quarterbacks for years went quiet. There's a moment in every competition where something shifts. You can't always explain it. You can't always measure it. But the people who've been around the game long enough, they feel it. Zac Jackson has covered this team through the chaos, through the disasters, through the hope that kept getting crushed. He doesn't get impressed easy. He doesn't hype things up for clicks. So when he walked out of that practice bubble in Berea and said what he said about Shedeur Sanders, people listened.
I have not seen that very much in September through November here in Cleveland.
How do you miss a receiver by 7 yards and 7-on-7?
It's tough to do. It's tough to do. So there is a natural ugliness to this, Jason. And it is unfair to sit, whether you're filming and trying to get opinions or just observing, to jump to conclusions off one throw, one practice period, one anything. These guys had 3 days of minicamp, and yesterday was OTA 2. So I'm very much looking forward to 2 weeks from now when it's OTA 8. It should be crisper.
Let's be honest about what Shedeur Sanders walked into. This isn't just a quarterback competition. This is Cleveland, a city that has watched its franchise try and fail at the most important position in sports for decades. Fans here don't just want a quarterback, they need one. And the weight of that need sits on every single snap. Shedeur came in as a first-round pick, carrying the Sanders name. And if you think that makes things easier, you haven't been paying attention. That name is a spotlight. That name is expectations. That name means every incomplete pass gets 3 times the criticism, and every good throw gets questioned twice before it gets praised. He knew what he was stepping into, and he stepped in anyway. Before he threw a single ball in a Browns uniform, the takes were already flying. Is he really a first-round talent or just famous? Can he handle a real NFL defense? Is this just Coach Prime's kid getting another platform?
A little less of a curve and more on reality, and everything should flow faster. But Todd Monken is out there coaching these guys. He's saying words I can't repeat on this show. He's screaming when the ball's on the ground. And that's what happens. It's May football practice. There's bad snaps. There's guys in the right place. Guys get missed on comeback routes. But then you hear Todd Monken say it's embarrassing to throw a pick in 7-on-7, and you're like, finally, some standards in this place.
So what'd you make of his comments?
I made that he was sending a message that you shouldn't throw a pick in 7-on-7.
Social media didn't wait for evidence. It never does. The criticism came fast and loud, some of it fair, a lot of it noise. Every practice clip got dissected. Every interception became a headline. Every incomplete pass became proof to the people who'd already made up their minds. And here's the thing about that kind of noise. It doesn't just disappear when you're on the practice field. It follows you into the huddle. It's in the back of your mind on third down. The mental weight of that is something most people will never understand. But Shedeur Sanders, he's been dealing with that noise his entire football life. Then there's the Deshaun Watson factor. Let's not pretend this is a clean situation. Watson came back from injury, and in the early portions of OTA practice, he was out there with the first-team offense, getting the majority of the reps, running the show. And to be fair, he made the single most impressive throw of the entire practice session, a double-move route 50 yards downfield, right on the money. So on the surface, it looked like business as usual. The veteran is ahead, the rookie is learning, nothing to see here. But keep watching, because practice has a way of telling the truth eventually. Watson's best throw was sandwiched between a pass that should have been intercepted and then a miss on a comeback route by 7 yards. 7 in 7-on-7, no pass rush, open field, 7 yards off target.
But a double move, 50 yards in the air and right on the money. And Denzel Boston beat Tyson Campbell, who's a really good corner. Denzel Boston is off to a great start. He's legit 6'4". He can run. I thought just in rookie minicamp, my impression was I was worried that he was going to be big and slow. He looks quick. He showed some straight line speed on that. So he's the rookie that stood out to this very, very early point.
Yeah. What do you make of the idea that Todd will put things into the offense that Deshaun is comfortable with? Because they overhaul.
And for anyone who watched the 2024 season, that felt painfully familiar. Here's what separates Shedeur Sanders from the conversation most people are having about him. He's not trying to beat Deshaun Watson. He's trying to beat yesterday's version of himself. That mindset, that quiet, focused, process-driven approach is something that doesn't show up in box scores. It doesn't show up on Twitter, but it shows up on the practice field, and the people who are actually watching notice it. When Shedeur got his reps, he wasn't rattled. He wasn't forcing things to prove a point. He was running the offense the way it's supposed to be run, reading the field, feeling the moment, and when he knew where he was going, the ball went there. That's not something you can fake. Accuracy isn't a personality, it's a gift. And right now, Shedeur Sanders has it. Now let's talk about what actually happened on that practice field. Shedeur came in during the walkthrough sessions first. Then the competitive team periods opened up and he rotated in with the first team offense alongside Watson. That rotation matters. That's not what you do with a guy you've already written off. In 7-on-7, he made a tight window throw that was right on the money. Clean release, right spot. The kind of throw that makes defensive backs rethink their coverage next time.
An actual open competition.
Well, I do think it's an open competition. I'm glad you asked. I'm trying to clarify. Like, you're just seeing more time with the ones, with Deshaun. He's first. He's got the most time. He's in two small sample sizes has thrown better. So like it just tells me that he's ahead. I think they maybe soft launched on the outside the thought of going this, and I don't agree because people say that, like these insiders say, well, we know that they're going to do it. Well, but can anybody explain why that's a good idea? No, nobody can. But from what I've seen, which is 4 hours of practice, I think he's slightly ahead, and I think the operation more than anything.
Was the next one batted in the air and picked? Yes, and social media absolutely lost its mind over it. But here's what Zac Jackson said, and this matters. Interceptions happen. What coaches are actually watching is why they happen. Was it a bad read? Was it forcing a throw under pressure? Or was it a guy trying to make a play in a tight window because that's what the offense needed? There's a difference, and coaches know the difference, even when fans don't. What stood out more than any individual throw was something harder to quantify. His body language, the way he stood in the pocket, the way he processed information. When Shedeur knew where he was going, the ball got there with touch, with placement, with intention. That, according to people who've watched this offense for years, looked better than anything they'd seen on that same field in a long time. The internets predictably split in two directions. One side saw the interception and ran with it. He's not ready. Watson is the clear starter. This kid is in over his head. The hot takes moved fast and the engagement was real, because that's how the algorithm works. Outrage travels faster than nuance. The other side saw something different. Fans who've been desperate for a real signal, any signal that this franchise might actually have something at quarterback. People who've watched too many Sundays of mediocre play, just wanting to believe that maybe this time is different. And somewhere between those two reactions is the actual truth, which is that we're in May, it's OTA number 2, and anybody claiming certainty right now, in either direction, isn't watching the same game.
But here's what changed the conversation. It wasn't a touchdown, it wasn't a viral clip. It was Zac Jackson sitting down and giving an honest, unfiltered assessment of what he saw. This is a guy who years ago stood in Green Bay during the preseason and told anyone who would listen that Deshaun Watson looked bad. Not just struggling, bad. And he was right. The regular season confirmed everything he said. So when that same guy comes out of practice and talks about Shedeur Sanders with a different kind of tone, not hype, not manufactured excitement, but genuine observation, that means something. Watson is ahead. That's the reality right now. The reps, the time with the ones, the operation, it all points to him being the leader of this competition.
But Shedeur Sanders is not fading into the background. He's competing, he's learning, and in the moments when he gets his chance, he's making the kind of throws that make people stop and pay attention.
There are still 8 more OTAs and 3 days of mandatory minicamp before this team heads into training camp on July 29th. 12 practices after that before a preseason game. That's the actual timeline here. And within that window, a decision is going to be made, officially or unofficially, about who leads this offense in September. The smart money says Watson enters camp as the starter. The operation supports it, the reps support it, but football has a way of rewriting smart money. What everyone, coaches, fans, analysts, wants to see is growth. Can Watson build on what he's shown? Can he carry the momentum of a good May into a real September? He's never done it in Cleveland before. And can Shedeur Sanders continue to close the gap? Can he take those competitive reps, learn from the mistakes, and prove that the accuracy, the touch, the decision-making, all of it translates when the stakes get real? If you haven't subscribed yet and you want to follow this quarterback battle every step of the way through OTAs, minicamp, and training camp, hit that subscribe button right now. This story is just getting started, and you don't want to miss a chapter. Here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders that doesn't fit neatly into a highlight reel. He's been underestimated before. He's played in environments where people wanted him to fail just to prove a point. He's carried a name that brought as much pressure as it did opportunity. And every single time, he answered with football. Not with words, not with social media, with the way the ball left his hand, found the receiver, and landed exactly where it was supposed to. Cleveland has been waiting a long time for a quarterback who makes that kind of throw feel routine. Maybe it's Watson. Maybe the veteran finally puts it all together. But watch how Shedeur Sanders moves through this competition. Watch the quiet confidence. Watch the accuracy. Watch how he responds when it's not going perfectly. Because the players who matter most in October aren't always the ones leading the depth chart in May. They're the ones who refuse to act like May was enough.